Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Real Estate Served on the Rocks. My name is Charlie Sardelli, and I'm here today with
Jameson Amros,
Oscar Ibarra.
And we just want to say Happy New Year, guys. Welcome.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, welcome to another year, and thanks for coming back and being with us. We're really excited to kind of project what's going to happen moving forward, and I think it's going to be a wonderful conversation with a great bourbon.
I could not agree more.
Right?
I am excited.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Oscar came in clutch bringing in this Elijah Craig.
You know, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the brand. Just Elijah Craig. It's my go-to at home. I have their specialty bottles, toasted barrel. This one's barrel proof. They have the rye. I mean, they have a few selections, and I love them all.
Yeah, their toasted barrel is one of my favorites.
It is.
I am a sucker. Like Basil Hayden has toasted.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little sweet. Might review that one on the podcast. But this one, the toasted version of this bottle is fantastic.
Yep.
And
I agree.
I've had a good amount of bourbons, but it's nice for me personally to actually start putting them in a place and
Right.
knowing like, oh, this one means this, and that's why it's been so cool for me to be a part of this podcast and learn more about the bourbon just from the experience. That's you know.
And
But
hopefully we educate you guys too a little bit.
yeah. Thank you guys for all the feedback that you've been giving us. Honestly, we're back because of you, by popular demand, and we're extremely grateful to have this opportunity and this platform to be here to give you guys some information. And with that, what we kind of want to do with this episode is we want to reintroduce the idea of real estate served on the rocks and ourselves as well. So I'm going to go ahead and let my co-hosts introduce themselves first, and then we're going to get into the bourbon interview.
Perfect. Oscar, start us off.
Oscar Ibarra, Fathom Realty. Been in business. 20 years. Been a while.
He is the business.
He's the man. The sunglasses.
We had a funny conversation, and we were talking about stats. I was like, man, I make the stats. I don't read them. I was being a little cocky, but you know, that's how
I
we roll.
am the statistic.
I am the statistic. But glad to be back. Gun shy about doing this from the beginning because of that. A lot of my friends that are in the business they're super high achievers, and I didn't want to say anything stupid, but you know what? It just works out that way. But no, glad to be back, and hopefully we could serve you with more information from the real estate community.
Makes sense. Well, guys, my name is Jameson Amros, also with Fathom Realty, and I'm excited to be back. I mean, we had a ton of fun doing this over the first, I think we had 8 or 9 episodes the first time we did this, and the feedback we got was phenomenal. Our goal is to educate you guys from a consumer standpoint, give you some things and a little different spin on what real estate means, right? There's a lot of podcasts out there that are centered around other agents and recruiting and whatnot. Our job is, and our goal is to make this whole process, demystified to a point, and allow you guys to feel really comfortable. So if you're cruising on Zillow and you're looking at houses and you're going, what the hell do I even do to buy a house? Or, hey, maybe I'm in the house and I want to sell it. Where do I even start? We want to make sure we clarify that for you guys through discussions, topics, relevant things that are happening in the market. And hopefully along the way, we have some fun, drink some really good bourbon. And we might fuck up every once in a while, but that's okay.
Hey, legal disclaimer:
okay.
We're not giving out any legal advice.
No,
Just
we're not.
average real estate advice.
Very important.
Very important.
We are the boots on the ground, your eyes and ears.
Yes.
Ooh, I like that.
Yep.
I like
it.
I like that a lot.
Yep.
Well, obviously, if you're fans of the show, you're looking and you're going, well, who's this guy with the shirt on sitting in the chair?
Whoa. He's the man behind the man behind the man.
He was.
He's the reason all of this was even put together. Just to let you know.
Honestly, it's been really cool. For me, I was the guy behind the camera. So, the guy with the little hand that would come in, that was me. So getting the opportunity to be on the podcast now and help these guys kind of share the information with the public is going to be an incredible thing that I've, one, never done before, but two, I'm looking forward to not only teaching, but learning as well. And with that, I am also an agent of Fathom Realty here in Colorado.
Represent.
I have been interesting fact, from North Carolina. I'm also from there, but we'll cover that later. I've been with a real estate agent now practicing for about a year. I actually got on the team with these guys back in June, and that's when we started thinking about this whole thing.
Yep.
And in all honesty, it's a wonderful opportunity for me to kind of be you guys in this situation and in this scenario, because I'm still learning and I genuinely want to know too. So I'm going to be asking questions to these guys and trying to take their knowledge and kind of push it forward for everybody.
And Charlie also gave up a very lucrative offer to be a hand model.
Yes.
If you've seen our previous episodes, now he's in the velvet chair. There
That's
it
what
is.
you
That
guys are
was
used
it.
to.
The velvet chair.
Just the arm.
Just the arm.
Yes. Never thought that I'd be this regal sitting in a chair like this. I'll tell you that. It's nice.
said
You
regal.
look good.
Thank
You
you.
look good.
Thank you.
Look great.
I appreciate it. All right, guys. So let's get into the one part that a lot of people were asking about was for us to bring back the bourbon review. So, Jameson, would you introduce the bourbon that we're drinking today?
Absolutely. All right. So today, and this is courtesy of Oscar,
Great choice.
Thank you.
we have, I'll show this to you guys. It's the Elijah Craig, but it's a private barrel. It is barrel proof. So for the layman, this will hit harder than a normal barrel.
Mm-hmm.
Normal pour. It's going to be a little spicy. A couple cool things about Elijah Craig as a whiskey brand. So they've been around for over 250 years. The original distiller was actually a pastor, and he started some of the first wool and paper mills in Georgetown, Kentucky.
So wait, you could say this is God's bourbon?
Or you can taste it and say, holy shit, it is good.
And you won't be wrong.
We won't know, but we're going to find out. But
Father of
his,
bourbon. He is known as the
the
father of bourbon.
He's the father of bourbon, and Oscar looked this up earlier. He was also the first to use charred barrels, correct?
That's what
Yes.
the
Yep.
website said, at least.
So
Yeah.
the website, the internet says it.
Don't beat me up
Well, what
about
was
it.
what was the story around the char barrel?
So, well, there's two. It just kind of depends, right? So in 1789, one of two things happened. His barrels accidentally got burned in a fire, and he distilled anyway and realized how good it made the bourbon taste. Or two, he was using sugar barrels, which are naturally charred, and realized that it enhanced the flavor. We don't know which one. He's been dead for a while.
I like them both.
I like
Yes.
both stories. I
Yes.
kind of like the accidental fire one, though.
I was going to
Yeah.
say that
Because-
how many things have we found out
Oh,
happened
yeah.
by chance?
Yes,
What
exactly.
was it?
I think that's how coffee was brought up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
like
think
coffee.
peanut butter was another one that was
Microwaves?
Yeah,
Right?
microwaves.
There's just
were-
so many things. So,
Yeah.
hey, if you don't know what you're doing,
Accidental success.
Yeah.
if you don't know what you're doing with things, just keep going. You might invent something.
Yeah, just keep fucking up. Eventually, it's going to go correctly. If you're doing it for the right reasons, you'll be fine.
An acquaintance of
Um,
mine once said, if you want to succeed, you got to up your failure level too.
Ooh, that's
Right?
Good. That's
yeah,
good.
It could be a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
But anyway, so single barrel, 1789, says it right on the bottle. This one is 126 proof,
Mm-hmm.
and it is what we call uncut.
Okay.
So uncut just means that when they distill it from the barrel to the bottle. So literally poke a hole,
No
they drain
cold
it.
filtering.
They may filter it to get rid of some of the sediment, like wood
Yeah.
chips and whatnot, but they won't water it down. So whatever proof you get out of the barrel is going to end up in the actual bottle itself.
That's
Which
awesome.
means whenever they do this, and they do a 3 times a year release of the private barrels, the proof of the barrel will actually vary every once in a while because it just depends on what it's aged, where the rick house is at, temperature, all those different scientific things that I know nothing about. But it will change the proof. But whatever the proof is in the barrel is what you find in the bottle. So I'm excited to try it. You guys ready?
Well, I mean,
Yep.
honestly, and Jameson, if you show the camera real fast, look at how clear that bourbon is. For it being unfiltered, you
Can you see me?
know the quality that you're getting out of that
Yep.
because you don't even see any particulates in the bottle.
Good old
It's a good
Elijah
amber,
Craig.
Yep.
amber color.
All right, so we're going to pour it and try it.
Let's
Sound
do
good?
it. Let's do it. And then, of course, guys, before we get that first sip in, we got to do everybody right. Swish it around, get the smell going. Let's see what we get from it before we even sip it.
Good thing I got my fancy shoes on.
Oh, I mean, hey, if we're doing a bourbon review, we're doing a bourbon
agree,
review, my
I
man.
agree.
You know, you got to sniff through the burn. Oh yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah,
It's a sweet smell.
Yes.
Yeah.
For,
I know JC used to say when he smelled it that by smelling it was kind of leading him how it was actually going to taste.
Mhm.
But I smell some fruity undertones, some caramel.
The sweetness is incredible for the proof. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's yeah.
Cheers.
Oscar, what do you think?
No, sweet. Since the first smell, I mean, it's vanilla,
Yes,
a little
for sure.
citrusy, little spice.
For
you know?
sure.
But
Well-
sweet. Sweet is what I'm going for.
Gentlemen, cheers to the first sip of 2023.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I cheated. I totally took a sip already.
It's all right.
Wow.
Charlie, initial thoughts?
I don't believe that it's 120 proof.
I was going to
Doesn't
say
drink that way.
Yep.
Right? Like, no, not at all. And I mean, especially with, we've talked about on the podcast before the burn.
Yep.
And granted, a lot of the time, if you take a sip beforehand or something, you don't get it as much. But even with this, it's not that burn where it smacks the back of your throat.
It almost accentuates the rest of the flavor.
Exactly.
It's the burn that coats in flavors, right? It's
Yes.
that burn that you look for, not it hit me back here.
Right.
I want a cough
Yes.
burn.
Yeah.
It's
Like-
it warms, but it doesn't sting.
Exactly.
It's not over. I mean, 126 proof. So you're talking almost 68%
Yeah.
ABV, right?
Mhm.
And just if you guys aren't bourbon drinkers, most of the stuff that you find at the store, it's called Jack Daniels,
Yep.
40, 42%, 90
80 proof. 80.
80
Yep.
proof. I mean,
Yeah.
this is 126 and it
drinks
goes down
smooth.
This is the definition of danger when it comes
Yes.
to bourbon.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, we've had a couple bourbons on the show where we didn't really feel like we, needed anything extra to it.
Mhm.
And that's the one that gets you in trouble because you can just keep drinking it,
Mhm.
But ultimately, like Oscar was saying, how it kind of coats your mouth. The burn leads in and it kind of covers your tongue, but then it leaves space for those fruity notes. I'm
Yep.
definitely getting that vanilla, that caramel.
Mhm.
And the burn is just so subtle on the back end.
Yeah, I'm getting hints of the fruit first, and then it kind of dissolves into that vanilla and caramel that you're talking about.
Yep.
Finishes extremely smooth.
Yes. Yes.
I had the cinnamon, and I kind of cheated. I went to the website,
Okay.
and it said cinnamon candies. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I can see
Oh,
that.
see
okay.
I can see that.
Especially the aftertaste.
Yep.
Yep.
Like after it's sat on your tongue for a little bit.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
So
sure.
far, very, very good.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Very
Yes.
good.
Um,
This makes
and-
for the fast forward of the podcast at the end. I'm going to be
Oh yeah.
You're already
excited
ready.
for
You're
that.
already
Yeah, I'm
ready.
already going to be there. How are we going to be feeling? What are we going to be talking
Yeah,
about?
I'm already looking.
Might not
forward
even
Yeah.
be real estate related.
to it. Right.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. To the
Like,
bourbon
so what do you
review.
think about the market? I think this is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, this fucking
gonna
bourbon's
go.
awesome. That's what
This
I think
goes
about the
great
market.
with any deal, right?
This goes great with any market.
Which, by the way, if you're tuning in for the first time, we do get a little R-rated as far as language goes. So I
Sorry.
apologize.
Yes.
However, it's who I am, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna be real with you guys. So
And
sorry.
for all three of us, that's honestly the one thing that this podcast has to be for us is genuine and
Yep.
real. Because the whole reason that we're doing this is to give you guys the information and that inside view that you might not get normally. So if we're masking this up in any kind of a way, it's not going
Does
to
you
work.
guys a disservice.
Yeah,
well,
so-
and that's with that brought up. I've struggled with that. We've talked about
Yeah.
before filming because with me, when it comes to real estate and work, I'm a very different individual.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
I'm all about work. I'm very different. It's just not my home personality.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then when you get to know me as a friend at my house, I'm funny, I'm goofy, or like, really, real estate?
Right.
But when it
Oscar-
comes to real estate, I could write the book on it.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say,
But it's-
Oscar
so it's
took
hard
me-
for me to merge them.
To a Nuggets game, Denver Nuggets, the basketball team out here.
Shout out to Nuggets.
Shout out to the Nuggets.
Jokic,
That was-
3-time MVP, baby.
Oh, yeah.
We literally got 3 rows in, and Oscar had said hi to 5 or 6 people. That's not even as we were walking through the bar, and he was like, "Oh, hey, how's it going? I know him. I know him." It's like Oscar's the man.
4 of them did have restraining orders. They just expired. So that's why they were forced to say hi.
But I mean, like we always like to say, when you're dressed that spiffy all the time,
Yep.
How can you not be liked?
Not all the
Oh,
time.
you know
Not
what?
all the
Speaking
time.
of, I forgot to ask. Old fashioned, yes or no?
I have already.
Boom.
Yeah,
Definitely.
With this one?
That we were talking about the toasted barrel. That's my favorite one to
True.
make an old
Very,
fashioned
very
out of.
true.
I honestly wow.
We have
That-
to. I will bring old fashions, and you give me your verdict on whether I make a decent
Well,
old
no,
fashioned.
honestly, just from the flavor profile that we got from this already,
Yeah.
adding that to an old fashioned
Mhm.
with the bitters plus the orange.
And across the board, Elijah Craig's a great whatever bottle you pick up.
Well,
I wouldn't
normally,
do it with the 18 because it's pricey and
18 is pricey, yeah.
have I? Yes, one.
Yes,
but I
18
wouldn't
is
do it. But the rest of them, this one I think I picked it up. It is a specialty bottle. HP Liquor is one of my favorite places when I lived in Littleton. The owner got me this bottle. I think I paid $60,
Mhm.
50, 60
Wow.
bucks. It's not the biggest one, but because it's a specialty bottle,
It's crazy though because the Elijah Craig Toasted Barrel is 50.
Wow.
And you
Huh.
can get that one readily, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not hard to get. So 60, 70,
other liquor stores may.
yeah.
It might be a little bit more pricey, but I mean, across the board, their product's great.
I mean, and honestly, out of all the ones that we've tried so far on the podcast, Oscar, I think I would put this number 1 at
Hey.
I was a little nervous.
We're not
I
there
was
yet.
a
No,
little
I'm talking
nervous.
about out old fashioned ready.
Oh, yeah.
Saying if you want to take a bourbon that we've had and make it into an old fashioned, just on the flavor profile alone, I feel like this would fully elevate.
I don't. Have we had uncut, unfiltered smoke wagon yet on this? I know we had the rye.
No, we
No,
have not.
No.
We got to have that. And
Okay.
that-
I
I
would-
was gonna
head-to-head?
bring that
I
in.
would, yes.
I was
I
gonna
would
bring
put
that in.
smoke wagon, uncut, and filtered, head to head, in an old fashioned with private barrel.
We're gonna have to do
Done.
like a face off.
Oh yeah, for sure.
podcast
Yeah.
episode.
One of us could be John Travolta, and yep,
I like it.
I like it.
Nicolas Cage.
That leaves me with what, Samuel L. Jackson. I mean,
I
he's not in the movie, but if I'm
You know,
gonna pick somebody.
you could play, yeah. Yep,
I think you
like
could
it.
do it.
I like
fully.
it. I like it.
All right, guys, like we were saying earlier, we kind of want to talk a little bit about what 2023 might look like moving forward.
Yep.
And I know for me personally, especially if you're watching the news right now, it's looking scary. You have YouTubers saying, "Oh my God, we're going to crash." You have CNN and Fox News and all of them saying, "No, we're going to be okay," or "It's going to be bad." And people are talking about interest rates. People are talking about all these things that could be affected by it. So honestly, with the experience that we have here, I just want to see how you guys feel with the information that's coming out.
And I'm gonna talk a lot about my experience, my personal experience with how the market shifted, how it maintained, and coming into the year.
Yeah.
My personal experience with my properties, my clients. I know Jameson's huge on stats, so he'll go with what we have, and then a little bit of what the media says.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
podcast wise, I don't listen to a whole lot of podcasts that have to do with real estate, just because I do real estate all day.
Yeah.
My podcast listening is totally different. It's like
It's this one right here.
historic. Yeah, it's this one.
Yep.
This is the one.
This is the
Yeah,
only
no.
podcast
As it
I
should
listen
be
to.
for you.
Historic
Only
events.
podcast.
That's what I said. But anyway, yes, definitely what the market did, what it did during the shift, and what it's merging into, and the future of what we think is going to happen. Because at the end of the day, you have your analysts. They will give you the stats, but we don't have a crystal ball.
So
No.
you know what's funny?
Things could change on the shift, right?
Before Oscar starts, he makes a great point, right?
Mhm.
You think normally that something that is so data intense, like the housing market,
Yep.
it's easy to figure out and predict where it's going. But there's a reason that it's not that simple.
Mhm.
A lot of people assume that the housing market, like other commodity markets, is what's called a free market.
Yep.
And out of all commodities being sold, right? And you talk about gold, resources, all that different things. None of them are based off of personal opinion
Correct.
of an asset, whereas the housing market is,
Yep.
which is why it makes it so hard to predict where it's going to go. If this was
Absolutely.
a commodity like anything else in a free market, we could sit there and say, okay, supply demand, it's out of whack. This is what's going to happen, right? If that was true, we would still be in a seller's market
Absolutely.
because we have no inventory. But because the housing market technically is not a free market and it is valued based off of individual opinions, that's why it makes it so hard. So as Oscar's going to kind of take us through, where the market's going, where it's been, and how it's shifted, keep that in mind. This is why you're going to see a ton of different news headlines and Armageddon one way versus the other way. Our job is to give you guys as much non-biased information as we possibly can, along with our own experience. And then that way, hopefully, whether you're working with us, you're working with a different agent, you guys can take that into account and make the decisions that's best for you guys and your family.
And understand there's a few factors that come into play, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
What's your house worth? You have your appraiser. He's going to come in. He's going to give the best value that he can come up with, apples to apples, compare other houses. But at the end of the day, your house is worth what someone's willing to pay you for.
Mhm.
So that
On
comes
any
into
given
play.
day.
On any given day.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
with
With that being said, Oscar, how going into this market, based on the numbers, but also the purchaser and buyer seller sentiment, what do you think is coming down the pipeline?
I've had a few good conversations with agents that, they've been in the business for a while. They're high producing agents, and they're even questioning, right? Some say gridlock, some say we're gonna loosen up. We have had a few drops in rate. I know I read an article that CNBC came up. The demand for mortgages are up 20%.
Wow.
That's huge, right?
Wow. Yeah. That's
So
an
that
incredible stat.
what's that going to do? That's gonna bring prices up. I don't think we're gonna go back to where it was, because I think if we're lucky, we'll end up at 5%. I think that's a good round number for interest rates. I think they'll dwindle between 5.5 and maybe dip a little bit under 5.
Yeah.
I don't think they will, but I think that'll create a quote unquote healthy market.
Well, and Oscar, honestly, I love that you touched on that with the percentages for interest rates in your experience. And guys, you'll find that I'm very straightforward, like these guys are when it comes to the information. But one thing that I would like to say is, please don't hold your breath for that 2.5% to come back anytime soon. Am I right, Oscar?
No.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
absolutely
can
not.
hold your breath. You're just gonna get resuscitated.
Yeah, you're gonna pass the hell out.
Yes.
Sorry. This is
And
what's gonna
and,
happen.
and to me, going through the market from 2000 to now,
Mm-hmm.
it was almost fictitious. 2.78.
Yep.
That was. I was like, oh my god, this is stupid. So what did I do? I went and bought during the pandemic when the prices were shooting up, because you know what, the interest rate was cheap.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. I'd be crazy not to buy in that market, right?
Mhm.
So I did. That's when I moved out here to Castle Rock. So they were almost fictitious numbers to a point that it concerned a lot of us.
Mhm.
Back when the first recession happened, there was a lot of interest-only products. There was about 6%, 7% interest only. Obviously, purchase prices were a lot lower, but you were paying interest only, so that it was called negative AM, right? That means instead of paying down your principal, you were accumulating,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And then some other banks, I won't name any banks, but there were what's called option arms. You had your 30-year payment, your 15-year payment, your interest only, and your negative AM payment. I can't remember what that one was called, but people that product was for your savvy investor. You were going to allocate your money somewhere else, short term,
Yeah.
right? The average consumer got that.
Mm.
The average consumer got the subprime, that was called subprime lending, the interest only. The good lenders would say, look, you're going to fix credit. You had, they were putting these products because of something on credit or because of their job or whatever the case may be. Within 2 years, because there were 228s, they were amortized for 30 years,
Mhm.
but in 2 years, it was going to shift. It was it was going to go bonkers, right? It was
Yeah.
going to go up to like a principal and interest 9%,
Wow.
right? So the goal was to refinance them out of that. So
Okay.
with all that going on, people that were in the industry back then, when they saw the 2.875, were like, oh my God, what's that going to do?
Yep.
You know?
Well, and see, what's really interesting is I've actually had a conversation with a couple investors, and I asked them all the same thing, because they're like, oh, you know what, Charlie, I'm really looking at getting into the market right now. And me being a little bit newer and obviously following what we were talking about with the news and, oh my God, interest rates. I was like, hey, so just quick question. Why do you want to invest right now if prices are higher and, people are scared? And they go, actually, now's the right time, because exactly what you said, people saw those 2%, 2.5, 2.8, and they went, I'm going to invest. Now prices are going up.
Right.
They're kind of drowning and they need help getting out from underneath that. So that's just a great example as to how you were saying, it depends on so many different
It
factors
does. Yep.
with the market and who's going to purchase, when they're going to purchase. Right. And so Oscar, with that past coming and like we were talking about with the sentiment being what it is with the interest rates, now that we're moving into 2023, where's your confidence level in that? How do you think that's going to play out?
The conversation I'm having with buyers and sellers is what the percentage that when we went into the new norm, quote unquote, because when it first started, we were increasing values 20% month over end. That's ridiculous, right?
Yes.
In a quote unquote normal or not so hot market, we do 4 to 6% year over end.
Oscar, you want a statistic to back that up?
Do it.
So Colorado, and I'm just going to speak because that's obviously it's our market, what we work
Yep.
in. Over the last 10 to 11 years, home prices in Colorado have appreciated 591%. So it's up everywhere, right? But there's about 7 to 8 states in the West, us, Idaho, Washington, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, California, right? On average, 500 to 600% over
Wow.
10 years, not just
Wow.
pandemic. So what Oscar's talking about is we already had this insane run up. And then once the Fed artificially held those rates down, it went bonkers.
Yep.
And that's what we're dealing with now.
Yeah.
And again, my experience in the markets that I was in here in Colorado, and again, each state has a different way of doing real estate. Right? We're a table state.
Yep.
So everything is signed then, and we came out of the recession, quote unquote, ahead of the game because everything was recorded there and then, not in escrow, right?
Yep.
Okay.
They were months behind. So when they take the national average, it's kind of skewed. You got the table states, you got the ESCO states. We'll get into that in another podcast.
That's a good point, though, right? You have leading indicators, lagging indicators.
Absolutely.
Our leading indicator was almost instantaneous.
Absolutely. So we're a front runner when it comes to recessions. You know, real estate and the job sector, the financial sector. We take the hit first, so we kind of take the blunt end, and then we're the first ones out of it. In my market where I had my listings, I think we dropped 5 to 7% from the summer into what we had to list. Depending on the purchase price, that's where the percentages get a little skewed. If you have a $400,000 home, if you have a $800,000 home, there's gonna be a differential, right? So it was about 5 to 7%. With that said, going into the new year, I think people acclimated to, okay, this is where the new norm is going to be as far as interest rate. Let's start purchasing again. I base my business on needs. I serve a need. I'm not going to give anybody, I'm not going to sell real estate to anybody just for the commission or anything like that. Let's get that off the table.
Sidebar,
I serve a need.
That's how it needs to be. That's how it should be.
Absolutely. And what I mean by serving a need, people that need to buy need to sell because they just got married. They just got divorced. They had a child. They're empty nesters. All that comes into factor. They need a professional. I'm your guy. So the people that need to, because while the interest rates were low, people had the luxury to say, you know what, we don't need to sell or we don't need to buy, but you know what, my house is worth so much now, and interest rates are so low. Let's go for that house that has that extra bedroom or you know, that big backyard. It was more of a, you know,
they had more to play with. So
So
and going back to your need point, right?
They wanted to.
The other thing that happened in the pandemic was people worked from home. So
Absolutely.
there was actually a little bit of a need for, hey, you know what? I got a 3-bedroom house. It's my wife and I and our 2 kids. Now all of a sudden I need a workspace. Right. So I'm not sitting in the kitchen on a laptop.
Or you were locked down.
Right.
1,200 square foot home. It's only you and a spouse, and
it gets real small.
I need
bigger.
Quick. I need a bigger house.
All of a sudden, you're like, "Hey, I'm just going to sit in my backyard on a lawn chair. Can you
and then the kids follow you back, and you're like
6 feet apart.
Shit, nothing's sacred here.
Who let the dog out?
That's kind of what happened to me. But anyway,
and this is where I'm glad to not have any children at the moment.
You know what? They're a blessing, but at the same time,
oh no,
there's some times where I'm like, man.
You know, Charlie, I've said this to everybody. At some point, reality will smack you in the face.
Well.
You're gonna be like, "How?"
In all honesty, I found me a beautiful woman, and I'm excited for it. It's the first time in a long time I can say that.
Hey, you know
and
what?
I'm not saying that because she's sitting over there. I promise.
No.
Yeah, I was gonna mention something, but
nope.
At least did he score points?
Either that, or she's gonna be making a beeline for the door. Like, this guy's too much.
I'm out.
So coming into the new market.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So the conversation I'm having with the buyers is, look, we have dropped. I don't think it's leveled out as far as interest rates, but there's some cliches out there about interest rates and all that crap. You know what? Get into the house that you want. There's ways to shift or the financial part of it, you know, buy downs, all that stuff that we covered in another podcast. Get the house you want now, because if we're in a seasonal market, and when we go back to the spring, I think because again, and CNBC posted that 28% more demand in mortgage, they're ramping up.
Yes.
It's going to ramp up again. We're not going to go crazy because we're not at 2% anymore. We're probably going to be in 6 and high 5s, but we will ramp up again.
And to that point, I mean, something else that, you know, not a lot of people are taking into account is that we've seen it go from 7.5, 7.8 to below 7 in 2 months. That is a fast decline when it comes to interest rates. Comparatively to the past, right? And Oscar, that I really like kind of what you said about how prices are, you know, we're seeing them come down, but obviously haven't leveled in correlation to interest rates. And I think that's kind of a good segue into where I was going to go with it. When I started last year, I got with a friend of mine that is now my client, and he's a first-time home buyer. And what we were looking at when I first started looking for him for townhomes, homes, stuff like that, I could find nothing on the listings lower than $300,000. Right now, I go on, and this is what we're talking about 7 months, 8 months later. Now I go on, and there's 50 listings under 300,000. For me, looking at those numbers, I'm happy with that. If it can come down in that amount over that period of time, I think we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, moving forward, I know everybody's listening to, oh, the Fed is going to go bankrupt and our credit line and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to take Jameson's fire on this one. But don't forget, it all comes down to you as the home buyer and the seller, what you're comfortable with. And for me, moving forward into 2023, I do think that we're going to see a steady decline in those interest rates, which is going to bring more people to the table. But what I would say is be prepared for this to be a little bit more effort driven by yourself and your agent.
Sure.
Right. You know, like we saw last year, it was flying. You listed it. Houses were going off the rails. No matter what, within a week, they were gone. Now, this is where it gets very important to trust your agent and make sure that you're getting with an agent that, like Oscar said, is not just in it for the money, but is in it to make sure that you get the best deal. Because as we get closer to the spring, like you said, and the market gets hotter, people are going to want to list, they're going to want to sell. And if you don't know about rate buy downs, if you don't know about all the different options that are available for you, you could lose out.
Or if they don't want to have those ugly conversations with you.
Correct.
You know, I was on average 48 hours on the market, sold.
That's incredible.
After August of last year, I think the average was like 60 days. I was about 30 to 40 days, which drove me nuts because I want to toot my horn and say, you know what, I'm a great agent, but man, you can only do so much.
Right.
You know, I was going to buy a chicken suit and twirl a sign to sell this house.
Absolutely.
Because it drives me nuts. Once I start a project, I have to finish it. And I had to take 2 houses on the market. I don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't take houses on the market. I get my job done. And I couldn't. And that drove me nuts.
Yep. And I mean, that's just a testament to the market, the way it was, right?
Yeah. I don't care how good you are. I mean,
again, it's all based on sentiment, on buyer-seller sentiment.
there is an emotional factor to the market.
100%. Jameson, what are you thinking about?
Lots. I got thoughts, man.
I can't get the flavor of this bourbon out of my head.
I got thoughts. No, I agree with a lot of what Oscar said, right? And I mean, I think the overall sentiment that I want to make sure we all get across, and to you guys that are watching or listening, is, and Oscar, you know, you've done this for 17 years. My teachable point of view around, you know, like, hey, what do I look for if I'm looking for a realtor? Our job is expectation setting, right? And you can't be good at expectation setting if you don't like to have those conversations. You're not somewhat confrontational, and you don't know the market. And understand that it is very, very hyper local. Down to 2 houses on the same street could be vastly different. And that goes back to my whole free market. It's not really a free market. It's based off of personal opinion, right? So when I look at it, and we swap stories all day long, I could go, you know, April of 2022, I listed a house at 675. I had offers at 700,000 before I went live on the MLS. We settled at 770. Okay.
Wow.
So number one, that's insane. That was within 24 hours. We listed on a Thursday. I had open houses scheduled for Saturday and Sunday,
which I didn't get to do.
Under contract. Yeah, you were supposed to, yeah. I was under contract by Friday afternoon, and the sellers were like, well, we'll just take this and get our lives back, right? So that's crazy part number one. Crazy part number two is the market's so out of whack that normally if you list a house, and I do my due diligence, and that house was worth $675, I could have made an argument for about $650 because one sold right next door, similar floor plan, square footage, amenities, whatever, for about $630, right? So I was a little nervous. They did $675. We got it under contract at $770, full appraisal gap. Guess what we didn't have to use? The appraisal gap. Why? The appraiser came in and said, you know what? This house is worth $770. Here's how crazy it was. They took my offers that I had, because I had 4 over $750,000, and said, this is good enough for me. This house is obviously worth over $750 because at least 4 interested parties were going to pay that much, right? That's how insane it was. We go from that to this, where I have a house in Parker that we listed. Again, comps back in September, 575, 580. You rolled back the clock 6 months, would have been gone. It's been on the market now for 120 days. We're down to 520.
Wow.
And we're still not getting a ton of interest and a ton of offers, right? Doesn't mean the house isn't a great house. It's a fantastic house.
And now if the pendulum swings, and there's another factor. The companies that came in and bought the houses, I won't name them because I don't want to get in trouble for that.
They're actually say open door. You can absolutely say open door.
Oh, and the other one, the home checker, home whatever.
Oh, dude, all of them. All of them.
So There was a good friend of mine. She had a house on the market. They offered $100,000 less than the list price, and she is damn good at listing. But you know why? Because one of the companies sold one $100,000 less because they need to unload now.
Exactly.
They're having trouble with their portfolio.
Yeah.
So now we're dealing with that too.
That is a beautiful, beautiful point that, again, feeds into it depends on seller sentiment. The fact that because they have to get rid of their inventory, they're just doing a quick sell. They need to get it going.
And it was the one only comp in there, and it was 100,000. So the agent submitted because she saw that one comp.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and I mean, here's the deal, right? So we can have a whole other podcast on price fixing and what Open Door and Zillow tried to do.
Yeah, I got
right?
some stories
so if
on
you guys
that.
want a controversial episode, we'll do it.
Oh.
I got a whole book on Zillow.
Investors back in the day, there's some crazy stories.
But here's what I'll say. So if I look at, and I gave that story of my house in April versus the listing I have now. Okay, one was in Fort Collins. If you guys are familiar, it's about an hour and a half north of Denver. The other one's in Parker, Denver Metro, essentially, right? Similar houses from a size standpoint, vastly different based off of 7 months of market shift, right? So the reason I bring that up is because as I look at that, and then we go into 2023, we are going to have a settling issue, right? Like, and in my experience, if I'm selling a house, I'm usually about 3 months behind where the market's at.
Yes.
If you're buying a house, you're actually like right there where you're at, right? Because it's your hard-earned money you're spending. As a seller, well, I want to make money, and they tend to be a little bit farther behind, right?
And the emotional part, right?
Right.
Yes.
Which we just had this conversation off air.
Yep.
The sooner people understand, PSA for everybody watching, that selling a house is a business transaction. We need to get that through our heads. It is not emotional whatsoever. Get rid of hindsight bias and understand that what you were doing is you were selling an asset that you happen to live in for 20 years to somebody else who has never lived in it for a single day of their lives, and they think it's worth a certain amount. So that's a whole other thing.
I honestly think that's an important thing to note. On top of that is I think that sentiment is changing. And again, we had this conversation off air previously is before homes were, people lived in homes for what? Average 5 to 8, 5 to 7 years. Now it's investment mindset and it's shifting.
Right.
And we're looking at 1 to 3 years. So even now the market is becoming less emotional because people want to use it as an investment.
And I think it's a generational thing.
100%.
The baby boomers, they're done. They're out of the market for the most part.
They just want to relax.
And they have the other generations, the now generation that they don't want to commit for 5 to 7 years.
Right.
Maybe 2. What conversation are you having with those clients?
Yes.
You know what? 2 years investment.
Yep.
You got to approach it.
Yep.
So and again, that's what I've been doing these last few months is meeting with newer agents because I want to stay relevant. What is it? Because I've been in the game so long.
Yes.
All that stuff doesn't matter anymore. What is the current market looking like?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So here's how I classify it.
Okay.
I'm going to call 2023 the great stalemate.
I like that.
Okay.
I like
this is why.
Not going to argue with that. That's
because if you look at market forces, for the most part, you always look at supply versus demand. If there's less supply, demand goes up, prices rise, right? That's just how it is. We have the largest group of home buyers in the history of the USA coming into the market now, the millennials, right? I'm a proud millennial. You're a millennial.
I'm an elder
You're
millennial.
an elder millennial.
I'm on the
He
cusp.
sits on the council of millennials.
Back in my day. Council of Oscars.
That's where that Game of Thrones, that picture you had, you'll be on the council.
I'm sitting on the Iron Throne, baby.
So if you look at it just at face value, what I'm seeing is you're talking about 20 million, 30 million individuals that are entering the housing market. And you're looking at the lowest supply of housing we've had since 2008, essentially, right? So on paper, that means, okay, high demand, low supply, high price. That's not the case. Why? Because if you look at homeowners in America, there's a couple of unique things. Number one, 80% of homeowners in the USA have a mortgage interest rate under 5%. 66% are under 4%.
Wow.
So they are locked into a scenario where it doesn't make sense for them to sell and upgrade because they're going from a 3.5% to a 6%. So the supply we would normally have for the upsizing, like Oscar talked about, the downsizing, the shifts to working from home, I have to move a different state to follow my job. They're not there, right? So if you talk about pandemic, why don't I need to move states if my job moves? Well, if I can work remotely, I don't need to. So I don't got to sell my house. If I'm going to downsize, well, why would I downsize if my smaller place and I'm a baby boomer and I'm an empty nester, why would I move to a smaller place that's going to be the same
more
mortgage
expensive.
payment
Yep.
or more expensive than what I have now, right?
Mhm.
If I'm somebody that just had a kid or 2 kids or whatever it is, well, now I've got life expenses. Now you
Yep.
talk about inflation and a couple different things. You add that on the fact of, well, if I now upgrade to an extra bedroom, extra bathroom, 2 extra bedrooms, larger yard, whatever it is,
Mhm.
now I'm paying almost double. So I don't want to do that.
Yep.
So now all these millennials are going, well, we need houses.
Mhm.
The people that own houses aren't going to move because they're in a stalemate. The builders are looking at that and going, well, you know what? My steel prices are up. My lumber prices are up. It's more expensive to build houses. Land is more expensive. I'm not going to build, so I'm going to ramp down. So now they're not building houses. It's a stalemate, right?
I was about to
That's
say,
where we're at.
You know what? We throw in the towel, the van life, baby.
Well,
You
Dude,
go pimp out a van, and you know what? I could live anywhere.
We could.
like
exactly.
I used to say.
I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
I can
We'd be
live
out of jobs.
in a van down by the river.
Hey, thank you, Chris Farley. But anyway, so that's where my head is.
Yeah.
I think, excuse me, we're at a stalemate. So now the natural question is, how do you break the stalemate?
Yep.
One of two things. Either interest rates fall
Mhm.
due to inflation getting under control.
Yep.
And once that happens and activity ramps up, then you'll see builders building more houses.
Mhm.
What we are seeing is builders are building, but they're building multifamily,
Yes.
townhomes, condos, apartments, so on and so forth. So what I think is going to happen is I think rent's going to level off.
Thank God.
Okay. And I think rent's going to level off because right now there's a record number of apartments being built in the United States, more than any time in our history.
But that's a great point. When interest rates rise, so do rents.
Yes.
yes,
Because people
So
have
you have to
go
pay
rent.
attention to that.
exactly.
It's like, all right, well, I'll
Yes.
just rent. Well, no, not necessarily.
No, not
Because
necessarily.
interest rates go to 7. Guess what? Your rent's going to be another $500 a month.
Yep.
It just
exactly.
they go hand in hand.
And in a state
So
like
you have to weigh out your options.
Okay.
Here's
gonna say-
another one, right? Baby boomers. You talk about baby boomers, right?
Mhm.
So baby boomers between what, 60 and 75-ish age, right?
Yep.
When did they buy their house?
86.
When they're in their 30s, 20s, and 30s, right?
They were more the traditional, right?
Yeah.
You get your college degree, you get married, you buy a house.
Mhm.
So if
And-
I've lived in the house for 30 years, do I have a mortgage payment?
Nope.
Nope.
Wait, but then there's more. You have the what's when they pay you?
Social Security?
No,
Benefits?
from your mortgage.
Reverse
Reverse mortgage.
Reverse
Yes.
mortgage.
Some of
yes.
them- I mean,
yes.
They're the community that's been
Yes.
targeted by
Right.
lenders and
Mhm.
So you
predatory
add
lending, all
that
that stuff. So there's
to
a
the-
lot of that going into
Right.
it too. But you're right, no mortgage payment.
Well, and the reason I say that is because another statistic for you guys, right? Statman.
Jameson is the number guy.
40% of Americans that are homeowners don't have a mortgage payment.
Wow.
And that's why we're sitting on the largest
What was
amount
the
of equity
percentage?
in the United
40.
States ever.
Dang.
It was
Now, granted,
something-
obviously it's localized. There's certain areas of the country, Midwest,
Yeah.
the South,
And again, the younger
Sun Belt.
generation, the millennials and the younger generation, look at that. And you got these industry media, social media gurus that say, well, don't pay off your mortgage. Don't
Right.
do this. Leverage your money. I'm going to be wealthy.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
it goes
Yeah.
hand in hand. You could,
Yes.
yes, if you rent, it may be higher. And then
Yep.
I saw illustration that said you're renting for, I think, $2,500.
Mhm.
Your rent or your mortgage is going to be $2,000. And then they broke it down. And they said, but then you
Yeah.
have the repairs, the
I
cost,
saw
and
that.
everything.
Yep.
It
Yep.
was more expensive. You could
Mhm.
swing it either way.
Yes.
But at the same time, this is not an investment.
Correct.
Correct.
If
paying
you
100%
treat if you
interest,
treat if you
essentially.
treat this like an investment,
Right.
then it changes that.
Yes.
It changes that 100% because you don't want to live here. You move out, then you put a renter in there, and now you have this for the
Income.
renter,
Yep.
and then you're making money. You're cash
Exactly.
flowing. So I don't care what you see on paper, on social media, or whatever. Talk to an industry specialist.
Yep.
Talk to a realtor that knows
And
what
we'll
they're
give
doing.
it to you guys straight up.
Yeah,
right?
me too. If I
we
say,
will.
you know what, this market's not for you, I'm going
Mhm.
to tell you
And
this is not
actually,
for you.
I was going to say that's I think that's a great place to kind of bookend the conversation on 2023. So what I want to do, and I know it's going to be challenging for all of us, if you could give one sentence on your thoughts for 2023 to our viewers, to our listeners,
Sure.
what would it be?
Can I do
Just to
two-
give you guys some
two
thinking time
sentences?
because I dropped it on you. I'm going to go ahead and go first. And this time I am going to steal Jameson's thunder because he didn't bring it up. So what I would say,
It's in my notes. Okay.
what
I was
would
going to say, hey, Charlie, ask me this. And then I was going to give you what thunder you were about to steal. But go
yeah.
for it.
Oh, I'm going to take all
You're on the
thunder.
velvet couch, homie. You're good.
What I'm going to say, and in all honesty, whether I say it and Jameson says it at the same time, it is the most important thing. In 2023, buy based on your own personal budget. Make sure it works for you. And if you can't afford it, take that time. Know it's okay and build your savings so we can come back stronger next year or whenever you're ready. Jameson?
Wow, guys. Wow. Hey, Charlie, real quick, before I give you my answer, ask me why I don't think mortgage rates are going to fall a ton in 2023.
Okay, give me a second. Hey, Jameson.
Yes.
Why aren't mortgage rates going to drop that much in 2023?
I am so glad you asked. Okay, because I think it's the question on everybody's mind, right?
Yes.
The Fed is going to raise their rates and their federal fund rate, and if they stop doing that as inflation goes down, what's going to happen to interest rates? Here's why they're not going to drop significantly.
And
I think
this
they
is
will.
one sentence.
No, this is a paragraph. We'll get to that later, right? But it's important, right? Because I talk to so many people, and you do too, and I'm sure you do. I'm going to wait until interest rates drop here. I'm going to wait till I do this. I'm going to wait till I do that.
I'm going to wait till the market crashes.
Here's 3 reasons why it's not going to happen, right? We will end up, and I agree with Oscar, I think we're going to be somewhere between 5 and 6% by December of 2023. 3 main reasons. Number 1, you guys have to understand that mortgage rates are driven by the bond market, and bonds are bought by investors. And if I'm investing in something, I want a return, okay? If I know that the feds are trying to lower inflation, I know mortgage rates follow inflation. As inflation goes down, mortgage rates go down. If I'm buying bonds in the mortgage market, I know that I'm going to have a diminishing return on investment as inflation continues to get better, which means as an investor to finance said bonds to then pay for mortgages, I am going to want higher interest rates because I want to make my money. That's just how it is. So as long as there is the shadow looming of a refinance boom as we start to move mortgage rates lower, investors are going to want a higher return on their investment in the mortgage rate bond, which is going to keep mortgage rates elevated. Straight up. That's number 1.
Or will it bring more investors to the table and then just level off?
Right. But what it's not going to do is it's
Drop.
not going to tank them.
No.
Right. Number 2, okay, there's the Fed wants inflation at 2%. That's what they've said forever. We're not at 2%. We're at 6.5. So in order to get to 2%, they got to continue to raise that Fed fund rate. It may not be as often as it was, in the first half of 2022, but it's going to happen, and the market's going to react negatively. That will happen through 2023, which is going to be a barrier number 2 of mortgage interest rates diving below 5%.
Thank you.
The third one, and this is more of a global economics type of thing, we just have too much uncertainty.
Yep.
And where there's uncertainty, you will never find cheap money, straight up. So those are the 3 reasons I don't think mortgage rates are going to significantly decline in 2023. So,
Take note.
to Charlie's point, I 100% agree. Figure out what you can afford monthly and then go from there. It does not matter. The only time your monthly budget's going to change is if you get a raise, you change jobs, or all of a sudden housing prices just dip 20, 30%.
Or you win that $1.5 billion lotto. I mean,
Yeah.
then you call me. I'm going to say the dopest house.
So I
I don't
guess
care what state.
my
I'll get licensed there.
one sentence for 2023 for
And I
any,
apologize. I did. I changed it up. Everybody, this is our one rock takeaway. So
Okay.
Jameson, please
Wow.
give me your one
All
rock
right.
takeaway.
my one wrong takeaway. From a buyer and a seller standpoint, due diligence,
Ooh, it was even shorter than a sentence. 2 words? I'm
Due
down with
diligence.
that, my man.
right?
All right.
Due diligence.
Okay.
Do your research. Don't pay attention to headlines. Talk to a professional, whether you're on either side, because it's going to be different for both. Do your due diligence so that you can make the best decision for you and your family, your situation, whatever it is, that you possibly can. Due diligence. That's going to be my catchphrase for 2023.
I like it.
I'm going to piggyback on that.
Be a DD.
I'm going to stick to my business model. If you need to sell or buy, we'll figure out your best case scenario. And if it works for you, we'll move forward. If it doesn't, I'll let you know. And then we'll find you. I know companies that do rentals.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
If that's your
You can
best
rent
case
to own.
scenario,
You got all sorts of different
yeah.
stuff.
If that's your best case scenario, then I will let you know.
Cool.
So I'm sticking to my business plan. If it's a need, I will fill it. If it's not, I'm going to give you the best and worst case scenario. You make the decision. I'm there to help you.
And listen, as those conversations get tougher, you got a couple of bourbon connoisseurs
Yes.
that will take you out to some great cocktail bars.
We'll have that conversation, then we'll have a pour.
Yeah,
Done.
Exactly. So with that being said, guys, we are in the middle of a transition with all of our contact information and stuff like that. But as of right now, you can still find us at.
Well, email is probably the easiest way to get a hold of us, right? So the Mile High Perspective 5280 at gmail.com. And then we also have
Individual
So
contacts.
if you guys want to look me up, I know Oscar was talking about social media. I do love TikTok. I'm not going to lie.
Oh,
It's guilty pleasure.
I have. This guy needs to. I need some
It's
coaching.
guilty pleasure. The Colorado Real Estate Guy, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. That's where you guys can find me. And then if you want to personally message me, 720-584-3361. You guys can get a hold of me night and day till about 11:30 p.m. I'll
Oscar?
answer.
I need to work on my social media, but it's still Oscar the Realtor. OscarTheRealtor.com, my website, and I am Oscar the Realtor on most social medias. If not first and last name, again, I got to work on all that. And if you want a direct call, 720-297-3823. Email Oscar@OscarTheRealtor.com.
Beautiful.
Awesome. And guys, you can find me at That Lifting Agent or The Lifting Agent on Instagram. You could probably tell that I go to the gym. I know. Trust me. I get it. But you can also call me at 704-402-9690. And all of us will be more than happy to assist you with any questions, anything that you have, any concerns that you have. And honestly, if you just want to have a conversation about the market, all of us love talking about it, as you can tell.
Yep.
So with that being said, guys, I think we should go ahead and do the beautiful honors of reviewing this Elijah Craig. I've honestly been waiting this entire time.
Bro, this is going to be the easiest review of all time.
I know. Well,
I'm gonna say.
You know, and we had talked about it the other podcast that we probably should bring in some trash bourbon. I mean,
yes.
but then we're not going to drink it throughout the podcast.
Listen,
We're gonna
man,
be like,
if we bring in trash bourbon, I will have a bandana, a wife beater, and some torn jeans.
I'm bringing
All right,
in Fireball next time.
Theme night. We're gonna have it.
Not Halloween. This will be a Wednesday. It's going to happen. Okay?
like
Somebody
it.
brings me Fireball.
I want my.
That's what's gonna happen.
I want my cat tail. My cat. You
Totally,
know, the straw
yeah.
in my mouth. The overalls.
Yep. Well, Oscar's got his. We'll throw this.
Oh, yeah, the overall picture.
His ice fishing with the overall.
I do. I mean, okay. So I do. With work and everything, I like to dress up for the most part. But when I'm out in the wilderness, oh man.
We're gonna.
Oh.
So
those Bigfoot sightings.
Yeah.
It's all Oscar.
It's all
I
Oscar.
went out with my buddy Sean. Shout out to Sean Maker. We went ice fishing over at 11 Mile, and we had a few drinks, and we're out on the ice, and I was down to just my bibs, no
Ooh.
shirt, no nothing. I think we were drinking some natural, Bush. He liked
Oh
to
my
drink
God.
Bush.
Oh boy.
I
Well,
have a
man,
can of
actually,
Bush in one
hey,
hand,
real quick.
no shirt. Their bibs are like overalls, right, for ice fishing.
if
and that's
anybody
it.
would have heard Oscar over with the echo, it would have been sounding like this.
Oh
down there
damn
fishing
straight,
birds
because
with
I
raw
got
fish.
family down in Florida, and they're.
So I got
everywhere
to
and
give
all
a
that.
shout out to Joey Ortega, JC's brother.
Mhm.
Right. Every time we go to Lake of the Ozarks, he is a sucker for Bush Lights, but he makes it classy. So we call them Bush Lattes.
Ah,
Oh.
Throw me a Bush Latte.
I like it. I like it.
there's nothing
Awesome.
classy about Bush.
All right, guys. So you guys know how this works. We normally give our reviews, and it's on a scale of 1 to 10. Closer to 1 is going to be our top.
Number of rocks.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Number of
Excuse me.
rocks.
Number of rocks.
I haven't
1,
fucked this up before. If you guys haven't.
Yeah. Again,
Dyslexia.
closer
kicks
to
in, okay?
1, better. Closer to 10, worse. And
The principle is the better the whiskey, the less rocks you need to enjoy it.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
an excellent whiskey. I drink my whiskeys or bourbons neat,
Yep.
but for the sake of this, we need at least 1 rock, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
So the less rocks, the better the bourbon.
Correct.
Yes. All right. So I'll go ahead and start it off.
Go for it.
Let me go ahead and do a little ASMR for the folks here. Let's take a
Hey,
little
that's
sip.
my gig.
Is it?
No.
That just put me to sleep. Wow.
Ooh.
Amazing.
Mm.
It's incredible.
Like I said, the burn is just like you can feel it.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah, you can feel it, but
Yep.
then it just gives way to the flavor. And I can't, as much as I want to be the first one to do it, I can't, only because there is a little bit of a burn on the end. And as I've taken more sips of it, the burn does linger on your tongue as you're sipping through it.
It becomes a
Um,
flavor profile.
Yes, it adds to the flavor profile, but that would probably be the only thing that's keeping me from giving it a 1.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and give this a 2.
Wow.
2 rocks.
Okay.
I feel good about bringing this. I mean, it was hurry up and grab something. This was in my cabinet. Let's go.
It was a great grab.
I appreciate it.
Honestly, like that just tells me that I need to come to Oscar's house and drink more bourbon.
I do have some good bourbons. I do.
All right, Oscar, what are you thinking?
I'm a little biased. Elijah Craig across the board. They're my go-to. I know what I'm gonna taste on their bottles across the board, but this one I purchased and I did take a sip. As you can tell, it was a little empty. I was surprised. I was surprised by it because the higher proof stuff is gasoline. I mean, Booker's across the board. I mean, you're gonna have that kick in the face.
Hell, the McKenna 10 we had episode 7, I think.
This one was mellow.
Yes,
and this isn't just because I like drinking Elijah Craig. It was mellow. It was great. I did not think that was gonna have any kind of sweet profile, but
True.
that's the beginning.
Yes.
That's the first note you get is the sweet, and then you get to the spice and the burn, and then it coats. I mean, out of the Elijah Craig family, this one's probably going to be up there for me. I'm going to give it a solid 2 as well. I mean, I'm going to save the 1 for that one bottle that we get. And I'm like,
That's
damn.
just,
This is it.
Yep.
This is the holy grail.
Yes.
We're going to find
Agreed.
it one day. If you guys think it's going to be send us in. I don't care. Or tell us what it is and we'll buy it. But this is a solid 2 for me.
And just so you guys know, we are in the works. I know we've said it for a while now, but we do have an idea structured around having something behind us that lets you guys know what we've drank, the rock ratings that we've given it. That way you'll be able to try it as you're watching and listening to the podcast. You can drink with us, and we'd be more than happy to share a drink with you guys.
100%
Jameson?
recommend though. This one's great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to overstate it, right? I think you guys kind of covered the bases on how good this is. I always look at it as, I guess, 2 things, right? If I'm at home, can I just sip on it and relax? And am I going to enjoy that? Yes. Can I make a cocktail with it? Right? Because I hang out with a lot of people that don't drink straight bourbon. They like cocktails, Manhattans, old fashions, a couple of different things. Would I offer this as an option? 100%. I really would.
And to its credit, you always say you drink a good bourbon without the rocks, right? But one thing that rocks do is rocks open up the flavors,
Correct.
the taste by letting that water get into the bourbon a little bit.
Opens up the bourbon.
Honestly, I would put 1 or 2 rocks in this just to taste the flavor, because if it's this incredible straight, I'm sure that those sweet notes, that cinnamon and that vanilla, will punch through even further with a couple rocks.
And that's what the old fashioned does, really.
Yep.
So, I mean, I honestly agree with you guys. I want to give it a 1, but I know that if we do find the Holy Grail, we're going to have to be like, oh man, now it's going to be a face off and somebody's feelings are going to get hurt.
Hey,
so
it could be the smoke barrel.
It could. But I would say a 2 as well. I
like
think this,
solid
from
2
what
across.
over 9 episodes, this is my favorite.
Yes.
Nice.
I would say.
I would honestly, I've struggled to find one that I liked close enough to the first smoke barrel that we had, not the rye, but the original, or smoke wagon, excuse me. But this one, hands down, it shows itself. It comes out strong, and it definitely makes you want to keep sipping instead of making you step back just from the punch.
Yep. So I think if you take all that into account, you take the flavor, you take the ABV. I take, can I make a cocktail with it? I got a cool smoker for Christmas.
You got to bring that in.
I will bring that in. Yep. 2.
Awesome.
2 rocks.
It's good. It's classy. It's higher end profile wise, but it lends itself to be cocktail as well.
What I would recommend for this one is take it out of the bottle, put it in a decanter. When you have people come
Let
over,
it breathe a little bit.
Yep. Bring that decanter over, pour this out. I guarantee that your guests will have a phenomenal time, and they will think that you are the bourbon connoisseur of bourbon connoisseurs.
Speaking of, so this is just future ideas. Real quick before we sign off, I do want to do a blind taste test.
That would be awesome.
Once we start, we pick our top 3 or 4 that we have that are 2 rocks or better.
Yep.
Maybe 3 rocks or better, and do a blind taste test and see if it matches up with what we rated them originally. I think it'd be kind of a fun thing to do. So just something for
that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Now, with that being said, guys, everybody, please remember, like, follow, share,
subscribe.
Comment. Yes, subscribe.
Talk stuff. I don't care.
Yeah, please.
If you guys want to talk shit to us, go for it.
Do it.
I love it.
If you don't, like it, you can take a hike. But it's
boom.
But with that being said, guys, like I said, we appreciate your time as always, and thank you for having us back for another episode. We're really excited for what 2023 is going to hold, and I think that this is going to be an amazing year for the podcast, for us, for you, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and
cheers,
gentlemen. Excited to be back with you guys.
Absolutely, 100%.
Cheers. Cheers.